Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, everybody. I'm back, one. And two, obviously, if you follow this channel, if you follow my work, you know that the last couple days has been pretty consumed with Tennessee football, as it should be. When you fire a coach in the middle of January, this is what tends to happen. And obviously, the focus of everything that I've done has been on the coaching search. I did a video the other day. I encourage you to go back. It is on this channel, the 4 coaches that Tennessee should pursue. And I get into each coach and why I think they should pursue. But I also had a pretty big caveat at the beginning of that video. And that caveat was very simply, it doesn't really matter what coaches you want. And by the way, I think Tennessee can get a good head coach, but none of them are going to come until you figure out who the athletic director is. And to me, that was such an important variable that nobody talked about. Everybody talked about the focus being on Jeremy Pruitt's firing, and I don't think anybody really realized the guy that hired him, Philip Fulmer, was out, and until you hire somebody to replace him, you're not going to get yourself any kind of football coach, let alone a good one. Well, fast forward to Thursday, and first of all, shout out to Tennessee for acting quickly, expeditiously, big vocab word there, SAT word, and they went out and got Danny White, the AD at Central Florida, and named him their AD on Thursday afternoon. And before we get into Danny White, let me just say this. I think most of you know him for his time at Central Florida and that goofy campaign to make Central Florida the national champion, right? It was about 3 or 4 years ago. It was the year they beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl. They were the only team that finished undefeated. Auburn had beaten Alabama, who claimed the national championship. And so there's Danny White saying, we're national champions. And he's getting banners printed up, and he's giving his players rings, and they're doing a parade at Disney World. And if that's all you know Danny White for, then you probably think, dude, this is a clown hire, okay? Like, this guy's a joke. But if you actually do your homework, if you're lucky enough like me to be able to talk to people within college sports, you know that Tennessee may have just gotten themselves a home run hire in the athletic department at the athletic director position with Danny White. And let me explain why. First of all, this is a guy who has spent his entire adult life around college athletics, played basketball at Notre Dame, worked in the Ole Miss athletic department, so he knows the SEC a little bit. His father is Kevin White, who is the famous AD of Duke, who actually recently just announced his retirement. Don't know when he's officially retiring. His brother is Mike White, the head coach at Florida in basketball, who I rail on all the time, I make fun of. But the bottom line is this guy's been around college sports basically his whole life. Not to say that that's like the only thing that matters, but I think it certainly helps. Connections, network, whatever. Beyond that, and this is the important part, every hire the guy has made has basically been awesome. And I think everyone's getting so focused on the national championship stuff. Look at the guy's track record. It's pretty incredible. So after he leaves Ole Miss, he gets his first job as an athletic director at the University of Buffalo, upstate New York, cold, isolated. It's in the MAC, and right, the MAC is the Rust Belt. It's the Ohio schools. It's Central Michigan. It's Northern Illinois. And there's little old Buffalo to the east. And they've had no success on any level in pretty much any sport when he gets there. First hire, goes out and hires Bobby Hurley as the men's basketball coach. And by the way, this is the part, it works out well for me. I know a little bit about football, a little bit about basketball, so I kind of have the balance of both. But he goes out, gets Bobby Hurley as the head coach of the basketball program. At the very least, great brand recognition, right? Bobby Hurley, upstate New York, you know nothing about him. You know nothing about Buffalo. You know Bobby Hurley's name. He's the head coach of Buffalo. Just so turns out he's actually a pretty good actual coach, too. Takes Buffalo to the NCAA tournament in the second year. I believe it was their first NCAA tournament berth in school history. Then he decides to leave. And at that point, I think there was the belief, okay, they just made the NCAA tournament. You could go out and get a quote-unquote big name. Go get the biggest name you can. Instead, Danny White hires from within. Hires the lead assistant on that Buffalo team. You know who that lead assistant was? Nate Oates. Nate Oates, the current head coach at Alabama, was the lead assistant on that Buffalo staff. Had never coached at the D1 level up until a few years before that. He had been a high school coach, goes to Buffalo as an assistant, becomes within a couple years the head coach. And everybody said, what are you doing promoting this guy? Why are you promoting that guy? And then we see why. It's because he's one of the brightest young coaches in college basketball. Leads Buffalo back to the NCAA tournament. They beat Arizona. They lose in the second round. The next year they return their whole team and they're in the top 15. Now he's at Alabama, steamrolling everybody in the SEC. 7-0 in the SEC in first place. Well, Danny White was the guy that sat down and said, I don't need the big name. I got the right coach right here in Nate Oates. And now Nate Oates is like the hottest coach in college basketball right now. From the football perspective, Buffalo needs a new football coach. Goes out and hires a guy named Lance Leopold. At the time, Lance Leopold was very successful, albeit at a very low level. He was a D3 coach at Wisconsin Whitewater, wins multiple national championships. But everybody says, you can't promote from a D3 to a D1 to an FBS school. There's no way that's going to work. You don't know how to recruit. You don't know how to do this. You don't know how to do that. Well, he goes against Lance Leopold. Bada bing, bada boom. A couple years later, they win the MAC East. This year, they were the best team in the MAC going into the last season, and they won the division. Last week, they won the division again. Then he leaves Buffalo. And within his first few months he gets to Central Florida, we have a little drama, a little controversy. And why is that? Because the football team stinks. George O'Leary, iconic coach, Notre Dame for like half a second, Georgia Tech, 0-12, he's out. Danny White needs to make a hire. Who does he go get? Oregon offensive coordinator, some guy you may have heard of, Scott Frost. Within 2 years, Scott Frost has Central Florida undefeated, beating Auburn in the Peach Bowl. Scott Frost leaves. You go get Josh Heupel, who has largely kept that program at an elite group of 5 level, won 12 games his first year, 10 games his second year, and this year was, of course, COVID. On the basketball side, Johnny Dawkins led Central Florida to the NCAA tournament with Taco Fall. They almost upset Duke. So when you look at Danny White's track record, essentially every hire he's made in the sports that matter, in the revenue-producing sports, he's knocked it out of the park. Nate Oates, Bobby Hurley, Lance Leopold, Scott Frost, Josh Heupel, on and on and on and on and on. And at a time when Tennessee needs a head coach, that's about as good as you could ask for. A perfect track record, nearly hiring coaches. What doesn't get much better than that? Beyond that, you know what I love about the hirings is that everyone is a little bit different, right? Scott Frost was the young, up-and-coming, hot offensive coordinator. Bobby Hurley was the iconic former player looking for his first coaching opportunity. Nate Oates was the lead assistant that nobody had ever heard of. Johnny Dawkins, grizzled vet. Lance Leopold, D3. All of them have a different story. This isn't, I'm just going to go get the best Nick Saban assistant or the best Coach K assistant or the best Urban Meyer assistant. No, I'm going to identify guys and girls individually. I'm going to, if they come from a small school, big school, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I am going to go get the best candidate that I possibly can because I believe that I have to do what is best for this school and hire the best person possible. And so when I look at it from Tennessee's perspective, excuse me, what more could you ask for in a new AD? You need a new football coach. You now have a guy who's been in college athletics for 20-plus years, knows everybody, is well-connected, has an insane track record of hiring the right person, and not only has an insane track record of hiring the right person, but has hired all different people from all different areas, from all different places. And so because of it, I do think he is going to cast a wide net when he gets to Tennessee. And maybe it is a retread like Gus Malzahn or Tom Herman. Maybe it is an up-and-comer like Jimmy Chadwell, Billy Napier. Maybe it is somebody that we're not even talking about or thinking about. Maybe he knows about somebody that isn't happy in their current situation and is willing to come to a situation in the SEC where they have a chance to rebuild this roster. And so I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. I'm not saying you're going to get every single guy that you want because this is going to be a challenge. We know NCAA sanctions are coming. That is no secret. But I think he got the right guy. And he got the right guy to identify the right guy to get Tennessee football back to where it needs to be. Last little thought before I get out of here. I know I made fun of the branding. I didn't really make fun of it, but I know a lot of people have made fun of all the branding stuff, national champions. Apparently, when he was at Buffalo, he started calling Buffalo New York's major sports program or something like that. But to me, that's awesome. And to me, that's a good thing. And to me, that's actually what Tennessee football needs. And I've talked about it on a million different podcasts and radio shows and YouTube and whatever. So I don't want to completely rehash it. But when I was growing up, Tennessee football meant something. To wear that orange and white meant something. To play at Neyland Stadium, to hear Rocky Top, it was a big deal. Like, you think about all the great players that played for Philip Fulmer, Peyton Manning, Albert Haynesworth, Jamal Lewis, Travis Henry, on and on. Every single year, they were a relevant national brand. And I think they've lost a lot of that. Now, they've lost a lot of it because the team hasn't been very good. But isn't this what you need? Don't you need a young, ambitious AD that knows what he's doing, that has built brands before, that turned Central Florida into a national brand? You can make fun of Danny White for the national championship stuff. I will tell you this. I guarantee you that was more free exposure for Central Florida than anything the school has ever done, and it was better advertising than any campaign they could have ever run. And so when I look back at this hire, first of all, I give Tennessee for doing it quick so you can get moving on finding the next head coach. But I think when you're talking about a new AD, I think you did about as well as you could have, and I think Tennessee made a home run hire in this AD. We'll see what he can do in terms of going out and getting a new head football coach.